So thank you all, first of all, for coming today. I know our lives are full and busy, and to take this time is, I know, in a sense, a luxury, but I'm grateful that you're here. And I tried to make this, in a sense, broad but specific. So if any of you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask. And I'll introduce myself. And let me just first of all say the workshop came about, Paula and I were brainstorming ideas, and Anita Gonzalez has been part of the women's leadership group, which she has headed. And when I've been able to go, it's just been a phenomenal group of women. And I found it really interesting as we're navigating this time of COVID, and our responsibilities around the job were really discussed, and the many hats that we wear. So that was really the premise of putting together this workshop, was based on a lot of that, as well as me working with clients one-on-one. So a little bit about me. Again, my name is Amy West, and I'm a lecturer in the dance department. I'm also a Mayo Clinic certified and National Board certified health and wellness coach. I'm a personal trainer. I'm an SMTD wellness coach for our students. And then I have my private wellness coaching business on the side. And just a bit more about me personally. I have 3 kids. My 22-year-old son just moved back home. It's delightful having him here. He is employed, which is great, but all 5 of us are back home. And my 17-year-old son is a special needs child. He has some mild cognitive and developmental delays. So I do understand the complexities of navigating remote learning, and have had to really support his academic experience really from day one. And he's doing phenomenally, but it's different from a more typical child's experience. I'll also be celebrating 30 years of marriage this year. And I had a chronic illness in 2011 that took a long time to navigate and recover. And my doctor put me in the 98% of people don't recover. I am in that 2%. It was a very long journey for me to get through it. And I'm grateful, in a sense, oddly, for that experience, that it has actually moved me into becoming a health and wellness coach and really putting the focus on helping people navigate through their own life process. But the health side, being in that 2%, I certainly learned a lot. And then I've been on the caregiving end. My mother-in-law did live with us for 7 years. She did have dementia. That was a wild ride, and again, no regrets, but it certainly had its complications. I had, at the time she came to move in with us, my son was a week old, and by the time she passed away, I had 3 kids under the age of 6. So definitely juggling a lot. All right, so what is a health and wellness coach? If a person knows that they're at point A and they want to be over here, and they've tried every single thing possible, whether it's better health or fitness, just can't quite get through that Grand Canyon, I'm the one there to help guide, communicate, brainstorm, and set goals, intentions to get them on their journey. So topics that have come up in the coaching sessions, a lot of anxiety and fear, certainly confusion, lack of motivation, a lot of people dealing with a lot of grief in losing opportunities because of the pandemic, graduation not going the way we all had hoped, A lot to navigate through around the pandemic, even something as simple as, did I bring my mask to go to the store? Or did we do the test in order to get in the building? So it takes a lot more energy as well. So we're also biologically wired to come together in times of stress. And that's what also makes the pandemic extremely difficult, because we can't come together. We're quite isolated. And no doubt the women have been greatly impacted. We tend to carry the load on so many levels, whether we're married or with a partner, young children, older children, navigating students, job situations. So a lot of factors at play. And then, of course, the statistics support the fact that women are greatly impacted. Certainly, we all know these, but to see it really written out is oddly comforting, but also glaringly obvious that we are navigating a lot of many different elements. And the fact that the majority of healthcare and social care workers are on the front lines, and we are navigating our families if we have them as well. And again, the women are in blue, not working due to COVID, related to childcare issues. So it is obviously a very real reality for many of us. All right, let's just take a moment to take a deep breath. And let's just go ahead and dive into a couple of specific areas. So this is the University of Michigan's Wellness Wheel. And you can see that it's basically in a circle. And you can see that the areas overlap. And I love this because this is really looking beyond wellness as I feel good today, I feel bad, but it's really embodying more of the holistic side to a broader view of wellness. And forgive me for the blurriness here, but this was the best one that I could find. This is a more specific wellness wheel in the 12 different areas, again, in the circle, all making up wellness, starting with the self-responsibility, breathing, sensing, eating, moving, onward, playing, working, and communicating, intimacy, finding, transcending. So it's a whole broader sense really based on the University of Michigan's Wellness Wheel. And I will often use this with clients for the visual to get a sense of a broader definition of wellness. So if you want to grab a piece of paper, where I'm going to ask you some very simple questions that I will refer back to toward the end. And that is, overall, throughout your day, how do you want to feel? And I know that's going to ebb and flow, but I would encourage you to write the first thing that comes to mind. And kind of for context, for me, I want to feel centered. So that whatever goes, the direction of north, south, east, or west, I can feel centered through that. All right, so let's address stress and just dive in a little bit deeper as to why we are hardwired to have it. And stress can manifest in our bodies in different ways. It's unique to all of us, but I think it's really important to pay attention to these specific areas. These are the more common ones, but they can show up in more subtle and different ways as well. And in moving forward, how does your body manifest stress? Just take a moment to think about that. So let's reframe stress as information that something is off. And this is a way of informing us how we're feeling. Our bodies can't speak up in a voice and say, hey, Amy, you have a headache, you're stressed. It will show up in the way of the headache as a way that our bodies communicate with us. And then it can be a sign that something is off. We need to adjust, step back, and redirect focus. Rather than having that impulse of going and grabbing some Advil to get rid of the symptoms. What if you use the symptoms as information? Again, hardwired for stress. And if we can reframe stress as there to help us grow as individuals, that we are maybe entering uncharted territory, it's stressful. How do we navigate through that? And I like to think of a pond. If stagnant water sits, then it grows algae. But if the water moves, if we move through stress, then we don't stay stuck. We move through it. So again, reframing it to use as information. All right, let's address grief now, because this was something that, especially working one-on-one with our students, it was really interesting to see how, when I worked with them one-on-one, in talking about grief, they said, yeah, that's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling a loss. I'm feeling sad that my graduation didn't happen, that my performance didn't happen. And of course, coping with grief also is losing loved ones, being apart from family members. And grief, again, is there to help us integrate and understand the healing process of a loss. And taking the steps, first of all, acknowledging it, giving it voice, and understand that everybody's grieving process will be unique to them. Even if a family member passes on, knowing that each member of that family will face their grief in their own way. And how can we support ourselves emotionally? By giving us time and space in order to go through that grieving process. And it is okay to ask for help. So again, the mindset intervention for both stress and grief is to acknowledge it, say it out loud, give it voice. Just hearing us speak it will really help us to get it out of our heads that's swirling and swimming around. And then reframing the situation, especially with stress. Use it as information. How can this help me? What's going on? Grief, I need time. This is helping me to grow and expand as a person. I feel deep love. I feel invested. It's important in my life. Of course, I feel sad for the loss. Writing it down, the research backs that by writing it down, it forces us to think about our words as a process of integration as well. And then be curious. How can I learn? What is this helping me to internalize, helping me to grow as a person? Even if it's discomfort and super uncomfortable at the moment, it's helping us to grow as individuals. And then create the mental space, the time, the space around it to apply a reframing or a different way of thinking. All right, and we're going to dive in just a bit deeper into some specific areas. And take a moment again, ask yourself, are my current lifestyle choices sustainable? Yes, no. So in other words, for better or for worse, in many instances, we are reacting to a situation rather than responding. And I know when I get in that reacting mode, I, again, shift the focus. And this one thing really changed my interpretation. We have the word react, but those same letters are used to create the word create. So we go into this reaction mode, but shifting our mindset into what am I able to create in this situation? And it gives us a little bit more sense of control. And let's dive into that a little bit deeper. So developing a mindset to create in finding our center. Here are some strategies. So I'm going to state the obvious. Healthy diet, meditation, sleep, hydration, exercise, journaling. We've all heard about this. There are plenty of articles out there. I know in times when I've sat in on workshops or I've read articles because I deeply research, I'm supposed to do this, this, and this, and this. And honestly, I leave kind of stressed out because how am I going to find the time to do this, 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 and this? So in putting this workshop together, I was very mindful that we wear many hats. Our lives are very full. So how can we sneak in these, let's just say if we have kids, young kids sneaking in the vegetables so they don't know they're getting them. All right, so our plan for the rest of our time is we're going to utilize the breath and then looking at our homes and then finding those me moments and then some fitness hacks. This is really based on a lot of working privately with clients, mainly women who wear many hats, and working with them to develop their wellness plans. So I took a lot of that data and research to put the rest of this workshop together. So the breath, how do we settle the body? And here's what I found fascinating, is that without food, we can live, again, the variables, 18 to 21 days. Without water, roughly the same. Without oxygen, 3 to 6 minutes. So we can really see, obviously, the importance of breathing and how soon we would die if we didn't have air, oxygen. And here's another really interesting thing. The vagus nerve is the body's largest nerve that starts up here at the brainstem and goes all the way down to our colon. Vagus means wanderer in Latin, and it was discovered in the early 1920s, and it, in more research really within the last couple years, the data supports that we can actually calm down our vagus nerve. And you can see everything on the right, how it regulates breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, helps prevent inflammation. The main purpose is to get that flight or fight response spread to the rest of the body to get yourself out of that dangerous situation. And the opposite of that is it's there also to allow our bodies to relax and feel a sense of safety. So it doesn't have a mind of its own. It doesn't have the brain. It goes by the sensation. So with that in mind and visualizing this picture going all the way up and down through the spine, you can see obviously the internal organs have a lot of that vagus nerve attached, which is why when we feel stressed, anxious, upset, we really feel it in our gut. So breathing for centering, this is something we can access at any moment. any time of the day. My family, I get them on the roll with the breath. They roll their eyes, but it calms them down. So I'll talk you through it. We'll breathe in for 4. We'll hold for 4. And then you're going to exhale through a straw. It really works getting everything out of the diaphragm, and then you just allow the body to rest. So we're going to go through it twice, just so that you can have that experience of going through it. And here we go. So breathing in, filling up the lungs, holding it. Exhale through the straw. And then rest. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's take this one more time. Breathing in. Hold. Exhale. And rest. And what that does is it goes through the entire vagus nerve system to calm and to center. Also, as a side note, it works the lower abs so that you can actually get some core strength. And kind of in the diaphragm, we'll just move out that old air and revitalize. All right, there's one other thing, and you notice we don't even have to get up from our chairs. The butterfly hug can be utilized in 2 different ways. I'm going to show you both. So it literally is just crossing your hands over your chest, or you can take it with the thumbs, and you want to feel your collarbone right here, and right here, your clavicle. And then you're going to just pat or tap, or you can take it this way. And just allow that sensation. It's going to open up through the shoulders where we tend to be tight with all the sitting. And again, trigger point in allowing the body to calm down. Just continue to do it for just 20 or so seconds. And the science backs that if you do it alternating, it will kind of just get things firing and waking up in a sense, settling down. And I noticed that I'll do this throughout the day, especially if I'm sitting in a lot of Zoom meetings. And if I can have my screen off, I'll notice that my shoulders start to drop and relax. This starts to open up through my chest, and I'm just sitting more upright. So I've been practicing this for several months. Have patience with it. If you're not feeling something immediately, just keep trying. Keep being curious, exploring, and experimenting. All right, so let's take a moment to talk posture. When I first work with clients and a lot of the dancers in the dance department, we start on really looking at the alignment, because if our structure is off, then other injuries can creep in. And as we're spending a lot of time sitting, the posture, I've noticed especially in my students, really, we have to bring awareness to it. So you can see by us in our day-to-day activities, hunched over our phone or computer, sitting in that kind of C-shaped posture really gets this part of the body to close and contract. So in getting this to open up, doing the butterfly, super helpful. If you can just roll through the shoulders, just take them back and see if you can, in a sense, attach your scapula together. There are 2, your chicken bones, chicken wings, and you just want to move through. And just take about 8 to 10 going back. Really try to get the consistency of both rather than alternating, but really get it to work together. And then take it forward. Just take 8. You'll start to maybe hear a little snap, crackle, pop. That's actually a good thing if there's no pain. And then go ahead and bring your shoulders up and then drop. You want to work to feel that long neck, up and then drop. And what you'll find is that you'll actually get more open through the chest. This is the part that we're looking to focus on. Drop through the neck. All right, so again, continuing on with aligning the body. If you have a moment to go ahead and stand up, I'm going to scoop myself back so that you can see, okay, disclaimer, I've been a professional dancer for a long time. I teach. Honestly, I have to continue to work on my alignment. It can go south really quickly, so especially with our sitting. So with that being said, it's a constant adjustment for me as well. So I'll step back. Here are some things to pay attention to. And that is, again, we talked about, I'm going to drop it down a tiny bit so you can see all of me. We talked about opening up the chest. And if you stand with your feet just hip width apart, you want your pelvis to be neutral. Because we spend so much time sitting, I actually see a shortened hip flexors here. So if you can kind of bring your pelvis forward and just, as we've opened up with the butterfly, get this just to drop and open, and you can kind of shake through to find that neutral position. A lot of this, you want to feel a diamond on the chest that's radiating out. That's always a great analogy. So as we're feeling maybe at times overwhelmed or that we need to get energy through the body, utilizing the breath, we can also go into the superpower pose. And the research backs this. So standing, and I honestly go into my bathroom quite often, and I'll just stand there. It will give me energy, but it lines up the body. And if you've seen people or feel yourself that you're hunched over due to the computer, it stops the energy of flow. But opening up and having this superpower pose gets the air and energy going up through the body. So leading with the diamond on the chest, you can hold that position, or if you're feeling overwhelmed with your family responsibilities, my kids know when I go into superpower pose that I'm just gathering energy to take on theirs. So those are some simple hacks that you can utilize without not a lot of extra added to that. All right, so when we think of our homes, most of us are spending a lot more time in them. And I will say, I was trying to add it up this morning. I think this is the 4th place in my house that I have tried to work from. An office over there, my husband and I shared. My son needed it for remote learning. I was in our guest room, but then my son moved home. And then I was over there on that part of the basement. Then my husband needed that to teach. And this little studio we kind of designed 10 years ago for me to keep myself physically active in order to teach, which has now become I'm teaching remotely ballet classes, which has been wonderful to have this space. And yeah, I think that's 4. So grateful to have the space, but it's been completely in flux as we have figured out our situation. So when we think of our homes, it should be a safe haven and a comfort zone and a place where we can truly just be ourselves, that feeds us, gives us energy. And let's just look a little bit at, actually, before we look at that, ask yourself, in my home, I want to feel blank. And just take a moment, let the first thing that comes to your mind, because again, we'll use this as information towards the end. I'll give you a moment to think about it. In my home, I want to feel. So let's talk a little bit about clutter. So for some people, they thrive in more chaos. I think Steve Jobs was known for having a very messy desk and certainly accomplished a lot. No judgment here at all. Again, some people thrive in chaos, some people don't. But the research, I found this study really interesting, and that is a UCLA group went into homes in the LA area. Both parents worked full time. LA generally does not have basements. I'm from Phoenix. We didn't have basements either. You have a lot less storage space. But 20,000 digital photos were taken. And the thing that I found the most interesting was that the women who walked around their homes to show the researchers, they remarked on the clutter. They spoke of how the clutter affected their lives and how there was a more increased amount of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Generally, the men were not the ones who commented on the clutter. And let's just say in more traditional homes where maybe the woman does tend to tidy up, it greatly, greatly affected more women in cortisol levels. So if we're spending more time at home, this may indirectly be affecting us and we're not even aware. And then continuing on with the research, they showed pictures of toys pretty much being in the living room, in the bedroom, in the kitchen, in those high-use parts of the house. And then the data showed that in the US, we have 3.1% of the world's children, but consume 40% of the world's toys. So that was so interesting to me. In that, yes, we are a consumer society in buying, but then that price is that sometimes it can be very stressful to manage it. And we're really good at giving, receiving gifts, but then sometimes it's very difficult to pass on some of that wealth and abundance. So again, looking at the COVID realities, another study of 3,000 people from 5 different countries had an additional 27 hours a week of household chores. And both mothers and fathers are stepping up, but women still carry the majority of the burden, that an extra 15 hours more on top of our already full schedules went more to generally the women. So again, carrying more of that load. All right, so the home edit, if any of you have Netflix, it's a delightful show that these 2 women put together. and they're fun. It's kind of eye candy, honestly, just looking at a very organized pantry or refrigerator. But they say to aim for the 80-20 philosophy. 80% of your shelf should be filled, or could be, and then that 20% has breathing space. So organization is as much a mental activity as a physical one. We have to face our issues and own the upkeep. So how do we go about creating a home that really does support us? I think a lot of this does start with visualizing. Going back to that question I asked earlier, how do you want to feel in your home? And then one tiny step. It can feel daunting if we have small space with a lot of stuff, but is there one small step that we can take? And can we have that be an ongoing thing? And really looking at our inner dialogue that goes on with our stuff and paying attention to that. But going back to that feeling of how we want to feel in our homes. Now let's take a moment and just look at fitness through a different lens, because in working with clients, especially women, privately, this has been a really big area. And a lot of my clients are very self-conscious about their bodies shifting during the pandemic and not either having the, let's just say privilege to go work out, the time, all of that. It's been really, really challenging. So ask yourself the question, I want my body to feel blank. And let's put aside the 15-year-olds who are using the anti-aging cream in the magazines, and how that can prey on us women to look a certain way, and Photoshop, and really coming to a place of respect for our body and how we want it to feel throughout the day. I'll just give you a moment to just think through. All right, so we were born to move, and it all adds up. And motion is motion. So sometimes I've worked with clients who have talked about even being in the discomfort of, let's just say, thinking back to middle school dances and the awkward feeling of being around other people. And there can be a lot of energy around exercise and movement, or them going to the fitness studio and being around 18-year-olds who are as big as my pinky, and how overwhelming that can feel. So paying attention to our internal dialogue, but going back to that toddler who was so free, and that's us, it's in there, that same freedom. So exercise is not 100% necessary, but movement is. When we think of going through just getting up and down stairs, or getting in and out of our car, or in and out of a chair, or in a sense, an elderly person who struggles to get from a sitting position to a standing position, and just the complications that go around that. And then as we age, we do lose an average of 5 pounds per decade of muscle tissue. But the great news is that we can counterbalance through resistance training. And I'm not talking about those 50-pound weights that you see the bulky guys in the gym using. That's not what it's about. So when the pandemic hit in March and we had to go fully remote, The dance department did not hold classes, but because the students asked, it's like everything just fell off a cliff. I did hold my classes. And given the reality that we found ourselves in, I had to utilize things from the students' apartments, homes. So we used a lot of pillow cushions, water bottles, and literally we were using resistance weight training using water bottles. They used tights or leggings to use a form of resistance training. So if this is an area that you're struggling with to figure out, I'm more than happy to meet with any of you to come up with a plan. But if you are able to get, these can be bought anywhere through Amazon, they're at Walmart. These can be a superpower of even doing things like this. This also helps to open up, similar to the butterfly, but with resistance. Going up. You can also put them on your legs and open and close, lifting the knee. So there are a lot of things you can do even in a sitting position. And if I know I am going to be sitting in a lot of meetings that day, I will put these around my thighs and I will do a workout. So a lot of this is creatively thinking about folding in movement throughout the day, because I would say it's fair to say none of us probably have the luxury of time to invest X amount of time to do it. So these little things really add up. Another thing that I wanted to point out, just in areas of tightness, these pinky balls are phenomenal. Again, can be purchased anywhere. Any area that is tight on your body, you can roll. I've actually sat on these on my chair when my derriere goes numb from sitting. So they're soft enough but hard enough. Super helpful. Pinky balls. You can, again, get them anywhere. All right. So, true story of my client. A woman came to me in September. She'd been to 2 doctors, and she came to me in tears. She was referred to me, a woman in her 60s. The 2 physicians that she went to see told her, nothing's wrong with you, go home, you're elderly, just accept the fact that pain comes with getting older. So she came to me, I assessed her, all of this of course was through Zoom, and if you imagine a folded up washcloth, her pelvis was going this way, and her upper body was going this way. So she was literally pelvis twisted this way, shoulders like this. And she was to the point where she was crawling up the stairs. Her husband had to put her socks on and shoes on in the morning. So after assessing her, we met every 2 weeks through Zoom. I gave her exercise. We checked in through text. She is now 98% pain-free, working a little bit still on the shoulder, which has been a probably long time issue that's taken more time to get back and open up. But that was literally through using one of these. And remarkable that she put in the time and effort, because her sense was she wanted to be pain-free. She wasn't willing to accept that getting older and pain was all a part of it. So my reason I'm pointing this out is that our bodies sometimes tend to go a different direction, and that through rebalancing the muscles, we can get it back. So folding and movement throughout our day. Again, let go of the no pain, no gain. That was so 80s. Let's let that go. Can you take the long cut rather than the shortcut? Parking farther back in the parking lot and walking. Do something, anything you enjoy. It doesn't matter what it is. We're broadening our sense of fitness. For my client, her motivation in getting behind the why, because motivation is only offers us so much, but her motivation, her mantra that she wrote out was to be pain-free. And you can spread out your physicality throughout your day. Honestly, jam sessions with the family, letting them pick the playlist, you'll get a clue into their music if they're teenagers or middle schoolers. And channel Beyonce. Be silly. My daughter and I do this all the time. And we just laugh. It's a great release, but it's also getting our kids to utilize their physicality as well. And then find an accountability partner if you need that. Super helpful. I get thumbs up from students all the time that they followed through with something. It brings me such joy. All right, so the last part of this is finding those me moments. And generally, they're moments. Inside of you is a smart, powerful, dynamic, capable, self-confident, alive, alert, fabulous woman. Let her come out and play. The world is waiting for you. And I love that because we sometimes can get weighted down with responsibilities. So exploring what anchors us and really developing a mindset to create room. Anchors, self-care, whatever label you put on it, does provide that soft landing to help buffer. So for me, how I want to feel throughout my day is to be centered. Do I always feel that? No. But I aim to feel it. And this is what has been successful for clients. Students as well have come up with, this has been a pretty much reoccurring theme in finding those creative times to really get the groundedness, that strong foundation. All right, so let's do a little bit of searching. If you were given a gift of 30 minutes, just like it was free money, take a moment to think how you would spend that time and what's the first thing that comes to mind. Just hold on to that thought. So sometimes we can think back. What did we love to do when we were a kid? And that kid is still in us, just like that inner toddler dancer is still in us. Finding those activities that we loved. Can we bring that back? Maybe you drew. Maybe you collected rocks. Inner resistance will come up with, I don't have time. So know that that may come up. That's a go-to, a lack of time. But in our subconscious mind, that can be uncomfortable to actually put ourselves first a little bit as moms, as women. That can feel uncomfortable when we have a whole family that needs us. So expect resistance. It is guaranteed to show up. So if this 30-minute activity were important to you, where in your day could you carve out the time? So we want to get specific. Is it getting up 30 minutes early to go collect rocks, or to write in our journal, or to just have quiet time, or listen to our favorite music? Or could it even be 5 minutes to start out? Doable, smaller steps. And then if you lack the time, what can I let go of? in order for this to happen. Thinking again, going back from react to create. So our review in a nutshell, we talked about the breath. In for 4, hold for 4, blow out through the straw for 4, rest for 4. Visualizing that vagus nerve throughout, settling. Thinking of our home, a place to recharge. I painted this. My husband and I did it in an afternoon with only one minor butting of heads, but it totally felt like my space, not an expensive investment to paint. YouTube is a great resource if you need help. And then folding in movement, the long cut, the resistant band while sitting, and then finding those me moments. So going back to the questions, and just think through for a moment. We want to put things in a feelings place, because if we can attach feeling, that helps us in moving forward to go from a place of reacting, which feels out of control, to shifting those letters around to a place of creating, which feels in control. So again, back to the questions. Which area speaks to you the most? And what small step can you take in that direction? And give that one area time and attention to figure out, headspace, what needs to shift. And in the long run, we shape our lives and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die. So this is ongoing. If we have kids, the stages change. And ultimately, I feel it's our responsibility in the choices that we make. And we're navigating through a lot, but what can we take and accept responsibility for to make change in finding our center? Here are all of my resources that I used. And then again, Amy West, here's my email. If any of you have questions, anything that you want to, upon further reflection, I will send Paula these slides if you want to refer back to any of them. And the last thing, Michelle Seeger wrote a book called No Sweat, which is a phenomenal book on rethinking exercise. And I really love how she talks about giving ourselves permission. Sometimes we need to give ourselves that permission to make our own self-care in order to give and provide for those people who are relying on us. And that we have to find those anchors to help ground us and center us.